Hey, I'm Christian Schiller. This video is sponsored by Document360. What is Document360? It is a knowledge-based platform built for growing companies. It's useful for help docs, FAQ docs, support docs, technical docs, API docs, and so much more. But in this video, I'm going to look at just a handful of the features available for API docs. This includes how to create API docs from a spec. And this spec can come from a file you upload, from a URL, or from CI/CD. I'm then going to look at how you can update and resync any changes to those spec files. And then I will look at the auto-generated code snippets that it creates for you when you create the documentation from the spec, and use the try it feature to interact with that API as I read through the documentation. For this video, I'm going to use 3 different spec files from 3 different sources. First is an unofficial Dungeons & Dragons API, because why not? Secondly is Lorna Mitchell's example spec file, which is about planets. And then finally, I'm going to use the time-honored classic Swagger pet store application. Just because these all give me ways of experimenting with APIs from different sources and different formats and etc. etc. So let's get started. So here I upload the file of the API definition. This is the D&D one, the Dungeons & Dragons one, of course. It's actually a pretty comprehensive API. It does give you alerts here and what they could be, but you can just force it through if you're not too worried about it. In this case, I'm not. Close this, and you can see in the background that the API is already there. Publish it, and now you can see the various groupings of the definition files rendered in this WYSIWYG viewer. And it breaks things down into each endpoint, I guess we could call it. And here you can see a little preview of kind of what you'd see on the live page. And the other option is to use a URL. In this case, I'm going to use the time-honored Swagger pet shop. Paste in the URL. Much the same now as the file path. Again, we get some warnings, but I'm kind of okay with this. We can click publish. And it's much the same. I have to scroll down to get to it. And here it is, everything organized. And the final option is via CI/CD, or more specifically, via a node package that you can then hook into a variety of different methods and tools, of course. So in this case, you pick that CI/CD flow, click next, and you get a command all pre-filled with the various variables you're going to need that you can just copy and paste. Here's the path, and I've added force here because this gets around the potential errors like with the dialogue we saw earlier. Otherwise, sometimes it fails silently, so it's useful just to get it through if you know there's some problems there. The NPM package will take the usual amount of time that an NPM package can take to install. And then if we go back to the portal, click close, refresh the page. And there it is. And you can see for each of the 3 APIs how it got there. And in this case, we'll hit publish. And much the same. These have all come from 3 different sources. I think 3 different versions of spec as well. And we can see organized collection there too. And to update a spec, you can follow a pretty similar path to how you got it there in the first place and use the sync and update feature. So here's my D&D spec. There's a lot of text here. I won't change any of that, and you can see a lot of the endpoints here. I'm just going to change something small up the top here. Maybe I'll be a bit more official with the version here and call it SRD, standard rule something. Can't quite remember. Click edit, and you just re-upload the file. And you can see there it's saying we could use the CI/CD path, which is true, but I won't in this case. Update, it's detected that it's the same file. We get the same alerts. Again, we can click publish to publish those changes. And when we view it, either live or in the editor here, we can see the changes that were made. For the URL created spec, that was actually on the Swagger repo, so I made a fork here. I'll make a couple of small changes just to demonstrate the feature. Commit them. Get that raw link again. And now here we can edit. Of course, as it's on the URL and it's probably from version control, we could have probably just done update, but I'm switching the whole path here. We get a similar error to before, but it actually is interesting to show you that you can also change the path completely, but it recognizes that it's the same spec and just does an update. And we'll publish and just scroll in. And once we get to the right section, where was it? Down here. And we can see the changes reflected. For the CI/CD option, it's a similar command to how we created it, but not quite the same, actually. If we find that spec and click edit, and then it does give us the option to use a file instead, but we don't want to do that. We actually want to copy this command. In fact, it's just that one part that's important. It references the actual API reference this time. And we can see that there, using the resync command as well, it resyncs. And we close that in this case. And again, we can publish if we want to. Jump into that spec. And there it is, the change we made. And with all of these APIs created, we can now look at some of the other features. And this is the live, the publish. We've been publishing the whole time. A lot of this was created for us at setup. We're mostly interested in just looking at these specs here. And we can see this whole bunch of features over on the right-hand side where we can put in parameters. So we can test there a parameter that doesn't work. Put in one that does work, we get the response we're expecting. And if we scroll down, there's different code examples we can try. So this is just a standard curl request, and let's change it to Python. I've already got this code in a file, and there it is. And it will do something fairly similar. This is often the thing with this auto-generated code. It's not always code you would really use in a full application, but it gives you the skeleton to build upon, I guess. And there we go. You can see that. We'd probably want to process that JSON output in some way and that kind of thing. And that was me taking a look at Document360's API features. Thank you very much to Document360 for sponsoring it. There will be another one for them coming up very soon, so keep an eye out for that. If you enjoyed what you saw, you can always subscribe below or leave a comment. And if you want to find out much more about me, take a look at christianschiller.com. And I have been Christian Schiller, as I've already said. Thank you very much for joining me, and take care, everybody.